Welcome back, everybody. We hope you are, still enjoying your Valentine's Day as we are continuing our way through the Swiss bracket of the second Proving Grounds Open qualifiers at Unified. Hawk, saw a couple of upsets here. Of course, the one on our stream was not one of them, but with some of that, we see a bit of a differentiations in the seedings as we have a very, very exciting matchup for you guys here. I want to say that it's Winthrop versus Maryville of a Secret Weapons squad. I didn't have the logos for either of them, so I was speed drawing them during the break. I have the wrong color for the inside of Winthrop and everything. But we do have a quick recap of some of the other games that ended up happening from the other Maryville squad. Here's Smacks breaking it down.
We just watched the Maryville University versus Pandy Pandas game, and Maryville kind of speed ran them, honestly. It was a 20-minute victory. APA had about a 90 CS difference in that game. 80-90 was really big. Niles was also getting lots of solo kills top lane, and their bottom lane, Azog and Chady played Caitlyn and Lux. Really just stomped all of that lane. Odd Orange on his signature Lee Sin looked really solid as well. It was just a really easy game for Maryville. They did a great job. Looking forward to the next match.
Thank you very much, Max. And if you want to check out the other Maryville squad, continue to go through the OQ, you can check out his stream at Smackside. Of course, there's lots of other team streams going on. We got Unified 2 for other open qualifier action here. But Hawk, we got to talk about the matchup that we have here on stage because these are two teams that are very familiar with each other. Winthrop University going up against the Maryville Secret Weapons squad.
Oh, Grapes, this is a top shelf matchup right here. Winthrop, of course, making semifinals to the surprise of many in Proving Ground Circuit Qualifier #1. And Winthrop Secret Weapon Squad, this is definitely a squad of secret weapons, I think it's fair to say. This roster contains 3 players that got games in on the main Maryville roster last time around, and then they've also got PCL and Zyko coming in.
Yeah, and those are 2 players that you would be very familiar with if you were following the amateur team in the past year. Piekick Lord up in the top side, making a return after not appearing on any team throughout the first Proving Ground qualifier. Formerly the top laner of Resolve, and of course other teams back in the day like TSM Academy. And Zyko down in the support role will be paired alongside Evan RL, who was on the main squad in the last event. Zyko, of course, the support for AOE Esports throughout their Proving Grounds run in the summer. So a lot of familiar names, so to speak, and to round out the rest of the Maryville roster, we have Kind, Getback, and Evan being the 3 that are on this certain squad. And I got to talk a little bit to Jensen, the new coach of Maryville University, yesterday, just in preparation for some of these games. And he said that splitting this squad into 2 different teams, that is the Maryville Secret Weapon Squad and of course the Maryville main squad, was a very methodical process. There were some tryouts over 3 days, and they ended up resorting to these 3 players. And I think the big thing that we want to look out for them here in this game, Hawk, is coordination here. Apparently, a lot of these players, that's something that, is they're not necessarily super well known for. And hopefully, obviously they took the first win of the game of the last OQ, against Redbird. So looking pretty strong already.
Yeah, the Secret Weapon Squad, it's going to be really interesting to see how they come in. Of course, as we've said, 3 of these players are no stranger to playing with one another, and they have a lot of time. But PCL and Zyko coming in, and Zyko in particular is a player that is known for being an aggressive support, shall we say. Very good at finding some nice engage angles and an extremely talented support in that right. But when you're playing with a team that maybe you're not as comfortable with, I think it could get a little dicey.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, a lot of these players have kind of just been playing together for a decent amount of time. I think Piekick Lord, the only one that is just recently joining the squad in terms of being in the university. But we'll see how they end up matching up here. And of course, their opponents in Winthrop looked very strong throughout the first Proving Grounds Open qualifier, even though a lot of their players from the roster that ended up taking the Collegiate Championship back in 2021 are different. We do see a lot of the members, still doing very well. Of course, you got to take a look at players like Mabud and Vex as people that have really stepped up, Ivano as well. And actually, in terms of returning members from that collegiate winning squad, we have Kenji, of course, who did a very good job as a sort of mentor coaching role in the last qualifier, and a newly returning member here from Winthrop in Frost Forest.
Yeah, and I really want to pay attention to these 2 returning players. Of course, as you mentioned, Grapes, they are reigning collegiate champions, and Frost Forest played for C9 Academy while Malice was still waiting to come over. So getting that Academy experience, even if for only a month, is absolutely substantial. And then Kenji as well, as you said, acting as the captain, acting as the coach in many ways for the squad. And I mean, just an incredible player. Played extremely well in Proving Ground Circuit Qualifier number 1 in leading his team to semifinals, and was, I would say, the biggest piece of that puzzle for this team. But, you know, as you said, they're not the only two on this roster. In particular, if we want to talk about in the quarterfinals, directly leading up to their semifinals appearance, Vex stepped up big time up there in AD carry. And then Mabud on the top side has an insane champion pool, 9 unique champions in the main stage of PGCQ number 1, being the most out of any top laner in the 16 teams. So they've got some tools to play around, Grapes.
Absolutely, and that's, I think that flexibility is something that has really helped Winthrop, you know, go through. Of course, even in the last year of Winthrop's run through the collegiate scene, a lot of the attention was focused on the mid laner Doxa and how he was sort of the main carry for this squad, with of course Saskia playing more towards that weak side. But now there's a lot more options that open up for this Winthrop squad. You can play top side towards Mabud, mid lane towards Ivano, or even bot lane towards Vex, as we saw in their quarterfinal matchup against Wildcard in the last tournament. So a lot of interesting avenues to look at towards the side of Winthrop, and it'll be an interesting task going up against, of course, the team, well, I guess the B team, or alternate team, so to speak, of the school that they ended up beating in that collegiate final last year.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like B team is a strong word, considering the Secret Weapon squad, of course, is coming in as still, if I can do math, the 13th seed in this tournament. That is top half. They are expected to make the main group stage, you know, by the laws of mathematics here. So this is a massive roster and a massive opponent at that, and a team that I think is going to be really hard to rate early on here, and which is why I'm super excited to see how they play in this game here on stream, and why I'm really excited to be covering them, because I think they have a lot of great players, and a lot of players that we know can be really good, and players that we know can somewhat play together. But the question will be, how well does this specific group of 5 play together? And if we're talking about expectations, Winthrop, they came in the last tournament, I think, all the way down at seed. This time around, they're 9th, so they got bumped up a pretty decent, 7th. They got bumped up a pretty decent amount for this tournament, and are going to be looking to continue their relative dominance.
Yeah, and something interesting, actually, as we head into the Draft 4 game, too, that we just kind of want to bring up in terms of how this Maryville Secret Weapon squad kind of sort of functions. When you take a look at some of the players that they have on their team, a lot of them are historically not known for taking that big carry role. Of course, Pie Lord being more that weak side player on Resolve, Evan being one of the best weak side marksmen that we have here in the collegiate scene, and even Getback, you know, throughout his run throughout the first PGCQ, did a lot of facilitating for the likes of, you know, Niles up in the top lanes specifically. So it'll be interesting to see who exactly on this Secret Weapon squad is able to step up for their team as we head into the draft. Tryndamere and Zeri, the first 2 bans off the board.
I'm so happy to see Tryndamere banned. A lot of teams have been playing it. It's so obnoxious. I despise Tryndamere, even though the champion is admittedly very good. It's very strong. It's split pushing. It wins a lot of top lane matchups, and is basically a champion that you would use to invalidate the opposing top. However, seeing that one taken away, I think, makes a lot of sense. And then we've got the 2 strongest AD carries being taken out. But as the bans are sort of trickling through, Grapes, I also want to talk about that carry position, because I do agree with you. I'm not looking at this roster and seeing, you know, a 1v9 carry right here, but I am a little bit interested to see how Kind Jungle does up against Frost Forest here in the jungle matchup, because Kind, a very good player in his own right, and we were talking about Frost Forest getting those reps in Academy, and not only the jungle matchup, but then how the supports interact with it. Zyko was very well known for getting out on the map, roaming around with RBM last year on AoE, and then meanwhile, Kenji, we've talked about the leadership role that he takes in this team. So seeing how the supports are able to influence the map with their junglers, maybe that will be where the carry potential comes from to help exploit the lanes.
Yeah, and I really like that point that you bring up there, Hawk. I talked to Kind Jungle a couple of months ago before the first PGCQ, just to kind of ask him of where he thinks him and the rest of his team really were as Maryville were about to go through their first run of 2022. And he said that the biggest thing that he personally was working on was confidence and being able to, you know, take that big step towards being one of those main carries on his team. Of course, Kind a lot of the time is known for playing more supportive things like the Jarvan to try and impact the map, but we saw later on in the tournament things like that Talon come out specifically as being a champion that Kind has been really good at and able to exert a little bit more pressure on. So we'll see if he's able to impact the map in that way. First phase of the bans have concluded. Good old reliable Jin Zhao off the board alongside that Thresh, and it's going to be Evan RL's Aphelios to open us up here.
Another game, another Aphelios first pick, and you can see why. We've talked about it already. Jinx and Zeri, they're the two strongest. Where do you go after that? You go to the other hyper carry. And if we're going to talk about Evan RL being a reliable late game insurance carry in a similar fashion to Scooped, well, Aphelios is a good champion to do it on, but that leaves open some real power picks, Grapes. We've got the Karma, which is a three-way flex, by the way. You could go Romix Might top, you could go mid lane neutralization enchanter pick, or you can send it down to the bottom lane to pretty much auto win any 2v2. And it was banned last game between No Team and Winston King of Amateur, but I think we might be in agreement here, Grapes, that Gwen is probably the strongest single champion on the current patch.
Yeah, not only just due to the amount of healing presence and team fighting that she brings towards the later game, it's also one of those flex picks, and I really like the way that Winthrop has set this draft up for themselves on this one too, allowing for a lot of flexibility, waiting to see what the rest of the draft comes through on the other side will look like before they decide whether that Karma will be going to a solo lane or down in the support role, and of course whether Frost Forest will get the hands on the Gwen or maybe up to Mabud as well.
Yeah, I really like this response here coming through from Maryville, though. The Rakan, now, if it is a Karma support, will struggle in lane, but we've talked about Zyko being an engaged support. And if you want to find clever engage angles, then Rakan is absolutely the champion to be doing it on. And then the Graves also is a flex pick that can either avoid or go into the Gwen as your composition seems fit. So a pretty decent response. But then again, Winthrop up the Ezreal, that is an extremely strong bottom lane 2v2. If the Karma is expected to go down that direction. So I'm not really sure how you would remove the Ezreal here with this Aphelios Rakan 2v2. Definitely going to be getting pushed in to the side of Maryville.
Yep, pretty strong bot lane duo there in the Ezreal Karma. Ezreal, one of Vex's most played champions throughout the PGCQ, known for being more towards the weak side as it was Mordio back in that first tournament, like to go around and impact those solo lanes a little bit more. But now with Frost Forest, we'll see if there's a bit of a differentiation in terms of playstyle. Wouldn't expect it too much, just considering this is a very typical Winthrop bot lane that we saw throughout the PGCQ1. But as the solo laners are still to be selected for both these teams, unless, of course, that Graves is one of them. Into the second ban phase, a lot of focus towards that mid lane.
Yeah, and I mean, Winthrop's composition right now is looking really strong, and they've been able to snap up a lot of power picks, like I said. Karma and Gwen, their synergy together is insane. You can start getting the shields, the movement speed, the Moonstone healing as Gwen just 1v9s in the front line once she gets 2 items. And then Ezreal having that safety and long range to be able to pick off targets from afar. Really strong start to a composition, and Jace now too. That is so much damage, so much range, so much zoning, and you have a pretty short range composition so far if you're Maryville Secret Weapon Squad. And the Rek'Sai is contributing to that as well.
That's an interesting pickup here. Kind gonna go for that more facilitating role here in this game. Going to try to be impacting that top side matchup of PCL on the Graves going up against Mabud. Final pickup here for Maryville Secret Weapon Squad still to be completed. There it is. Going to be that Twisted Fate here for Get Back. So, again, back to something that he's very comfortable on. A lot of people actually considered both of these Maryville mid laners to be very similar in terms of Get Back and APA. Both of them really like to get across the map, and this Twisted Fate really speaks for it. Wait, Jax?
Yeah, the Graves gets confirmed top lane R5 Jax for Mabud. And, I didn't want to say it, Grapes, but I had a hunch that the Gwen was going jungle for Frost Forest.
Wow.
We've talked about how good this player is, and now you've got the carry potential. I think this is a very interesting draft because, straight up, Maryville Secret Weapon Squad is going to lose team fights to Winthrop. Winthrop will win these. But the question is, if you can use this Twisted Fate, if you can use this Rek'Sai to influence your lanes hard enough to disrupt that play pattern, because champions that are the likes of the Jace, champions that are the likes of Jax can be attacked early on, But with the Jace going mid, that adds so much safety to be in a shorter lane. Jax is a lot harder to get on top of, and I mean, I am a huge fan of Winthrop's draft right here. I think they have amazing team fight. I think they've got solid lanes across the board, hard-winning bot lane 2v2, counter pick top, which means that the Gwen will have lanes to play through. She'll be able to farm up nicely, and then again, 2-item Gwen, it's game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say it too. I think Winthrop win the draft here in this game, as
absolutely.
their name sort of suggests. They have a very powerful 1-3-1 come to some of the later stages in the game. They also have the potential to collapse on these sort of flanks with these champions like the Gwen and the Jax that Mabud and Frostforce have in their hands. And a whole lot of wave clear, a whole lot of poke potential as well. Very versatile composition from Winthrop. And for Maryville Secret Weapon Squad, their job is to, as you said, Hawk, punish early on. You have this Rek'Sai Twisted Fate combo in Kind and Get Back. These are two players that played throughout the first PGCQ together. Hopefully some of that synergy that they had throughout the first tournament is enough to get around the map, get Evan to a point where he just becomes 1v9. Of course, PCL to try and match somebody like Avano or Mabud in a side lane if it ends up coming down to it. And that's just going to have to be the game plan that Maryville have, because I don't think they can fight this 5v5 if it comes to the late game.
I mean, and the problem too is, yeah, Evan RL can try to scale up on this Aphelios and be a team fight threat, but how do you position when there's Jason Ezreal poke coming through and then a karma'd up Jax and Gwen coming for you? Like, you don't have much in the form of peel at all. Like, Twisted Fate Gold card, a little bit. Rakan can try to help out, but it sort of feels like Maryville Secret Weapon Squad, they have a dive comp, and then Aphelios is going to try to give long-range follow-up, but I think it's going to be an ult and then die more than anything. I'm actually very, very concerned for this Maryville comp. As we've said, they have a lot of great players that should be able to at least contend in the lane phase. But I'm really looking at Kind Jungle. We mentioned support. Jungle synergy in this game will be a big deal, and I think it means all the more when you have Rek'Sai, when you have Twisted Fate. You have these champions that need to get unlocked, and Rakan is good at doing that.
Yeah, and that's, again, has to be the game plan. Getting across the map, feeding some of these other members here. But again, for Winthrop, another thing that I really like about the composition is sort of the multifaceted nature behind it. You have engaged threats here, like potential of a Mabud or Frostforce flank. But if you can survive the early aggression, the early engage out of Kind, out of Get Back, even out of Zyko, your ability to fight back and play the fight kiting away is certainly very strong. You have a whole lot of crowd control, a whole lot of movement speed here generated by the mantra shield coming out from Kenji, and of course really long range carries in Vex and Avano. So once you get to these late game fights, Maryville Secret Weapon Squad, they have to find the engage, and that's why the agency is on them and not on Winthrop.
Yeah, absolutely. Winthrop, they've got all of the cards, but it comes down to whether or not Maryville Secret Weapon Squad can pull the aces from their pocket. We're on to the Rift for game number 2.
Well, I'd say Get Back has some cards. Twisted Fate, you know. just a thought, some fruit for thought, so to speak here.
Ooh.
Here for our second game of the Open Qualifier. Reminder, both of these teams are at 1-0. Only one can remain undefeated here. It is a collegiate finals rematch, so to speak here. Maryville Secret Weapon Squad, of course, not the higher seeded Maryville team coming into this one, but still a lot of players, you know, like the likes of Kind, Jungle, and Evan specifically, players that were part of the organization during their CLOL defeat back in May. So definitely still potentially have a bit of a grudge here, as, you know, Winthrop, again, also trying to confirm themselves as that best collegiate team that we have in North America.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, I would imagine, a little bit of a grudge match for a lot of these players. And I think it's safe to say that Winthrop is favored, but Maryville, even though it's their B team, in air quotes, they are here to play. They are a team that is going to be contending for the top 16. They're expected to make it. They are expected to be in group stage. So this team absolutely has what it takes to be able to compete here. And we are coming back out of the game real quick. Just a few technical difficulties, should get those sorted out within the next couple minutes.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want to go tab off to another screen. Obviously, if you want to have a second monitor up, of course, Unify 2 is streaming Wildcard Gaming versus Ginger Turmeric. Of course, DJ and RMC going to take you through the action of that one. But, you know, I would stay here if I were you as well, because I think this is about to be a close game. Finally, back onto the Rift. Missed a little bit of the early jungle pathing, but not too much of a concern because we can kind of infer what's happening here. Both junglers starting on their red buffs and headed towards opposite sides of the map.
Yeah, and cheeky little words from both teams on opposing Raptor camps. Looks like there might have been a little bit of an invade on the top side for Maryville, just based on how deep those wards are. So going to be inferred where both junglers are starting.
My Vex! Tried to flash to get the angle onto the Mystic shot. Whole lot of summoners, 3 of them burned on each side and down in the bottom lane at level 1, but I think Winthrop gets the better end of that trade. Vex still at full HP.
Yeah, and Vex seems like he missed some XP there, not getting level 2 until the second caster of the second wave. Generally, it's after the first 3 melees, so a little interesting there. But either way, both junglers, they're just starting red side. However, I was about to say this, I want to see what Kind Jungle does early if he's able to disrupt this Gwen, because the way to stop Gwen in the jungle is to take advantage of her early on. She's a very good duelist, but what she is not is... you know, good at getting away from the likes of Rek'Sai that have a knockup, but instead it's going to be a gang.
There we go. Flash knockup straight in onto Kenji. They know he has no flash, and he soon will have no life. First blood going over to Kind Jungle to start the game off. Vex getting the return, though.
Here comes the
Gwen
Ghost.
Frost Forest. He has the Ghost, so a lot of movement speed, but the chase ability might not be enough here for this Winthrop squad. The Snips are going to try to come through. Zyko, again, still has the flash to get away, so it looks like Maryville Secret Weapon Squad will have their bot lane survive for now. Just a 1-for-1, but a very aggressive play from Kind Jungle to start things off.
Yeah, I mean, very aggressive play right there. I thought Kind Jungle was looking for the invade angle on Frost Forest because Rek'Sai does outduel the Gwen early, one of the few champions that can, but instead it's the gank on the flashless bottom lane. Rek'Sai able to come from so far behind as Bud getting a little low on the top side. And they're able to pick up the first blood, but a good counterplay there from Vex means that the play's pretty evened up, and Frost Force ahead in tempo feels pretty good.
Action doesn't stop down here in the bottom lane, though. The grand entrance will just lead to a Zyko exit. Vex picking up 1, make it 2. The double kill for the Ezreal.
Man, the captain right there, finding the flank. No vision means Evan RL and Zyko have no idea it's coming. I don't believe they had reset after the initial play on the bottom side, so... health bars were still a little low right there, and Vex with a red buff as well. It is a good time to be playing Ezreal on the Rift right now, Graves.
You know, if you told me, Hawk, that out of all the things that were going to happen in this game, a level 2 Karma flank would be one of them, I'd be a bit confused. Maybe you had to your words jumbled up a little bit there, but that's just what happened. Sir Kenji finding a great engage there and yielding an early lead here for Vex, and we know what Vex can do if he gets ahead, if he gets these resources, and 3 kills on the Ezreal, certainly a good start.
Where were you, Grapes, when a level 2 Karma outganked a Rek'Sai?
Don't do Kind like that, man.
Yeah, it was a good gank by Kind. Obviously, the summoner differential meant a lot, but I mean, it was a really good play there by Kenji, and I like how he used the empowered Q to get the AoE slow and then went in with the root. It just guaranteed a little bit more CC layering. It reduced the escape potential. And Zyko, unfortunately, trying to peel for his AD carry, doesn't have the mobility to get out after the grand entrance is burned. So Vex, yeah, he's a little down in farm, but he's got this big wave to collect. And having 3 kills, that is a Sheen, a Tier, 2 longswords. He is scaling up very nicely. And on the rest of the map, too, we're talking about scaling. Okay, Mabud also a little down, but jungle's even, mid is even, and we've already talked about how hard team fights are going to be to play if you're Maryville.
Well, important to note, though, Get Back, who I believe is just Cat Dog here, has unlocked level 6, so that Destiny can be used in conjunction with Kind on this Rek'Sai to maybe potentially open up the map a little bit more for the Maryville Secret Weapons squad. We talked about this earlier with all the proactivity on the side of the Winston team. If you have the engage, you're going to have to use it proactively, otherwise the game will end rather quickly.
Yeah, and, you know, despite the 3 kills on Ezreal, bot lane is still very volatile here with the Twisted Fate ultimate available, but Frost Forest, he knows that he needs to protect his bot lane as their summoners come back up. So he's just down here on the bottom side. Maryville does have strong control over the river, and Mabud, with the Twisted Fate off the map, getting zoned off of a huge wave on the top side. So Maryville is still leveraging their strong
Frost Forest in trouble. Kind of try to catch out Zyko here. Had to burn a whole lot of cooldowns to get out of that one. Don't think anything too crucial in terms of summoner spells were burned there, but shows that the Gwen, even though she is pretty strong right now, can't really do much in terms of chase potential, especially without that flash over the wall. So just gonna have to wait to scale. That's why you pick Gwen here in the jungle matchup. But now mid 2v2 might be erupting. Here comes Kind Jungle over the wall with the tunnel. Decent amount of damage here onto Frost Forest. Get Back not in range to use that gold card just yet.
Yeah, and most importantly, Winthrop, with that near pick, they're able to get some control back in the bottom side river, but somebody's got to get up to the top side and help Mabud. Now down over 15 CS, but what's important is the experience. Only level 5 at 7 minutes as a solo lane Jax is really problematic. And it's just the threat of Twisted Fate roaming up. He knows that his jungler is not on his side of the map, so he has no protection should a dive come through. And it does mean that the gold is evened up somewhat. Winthrop, they were up about 1,000 after the kills went down. Now it's down to only about 700 due to the farm advantage. However, again, with every play is an equal and opposite reaction. Dragon's being started.
More action down in the bot lane, though. Yeah, Vex unlocking that ultimate first down here in the bottom lane, so no retaliation with the Moonlight Vigil from Evan. Of course, with that priority down bottom, it is Frost Forest who is able to collect this first Hex Tech Drake. You know, unless he somehow dies to it. I mean, he has a smite, so yeah, like we're pretty good for now. Gold lead, again, barely in favor of Winthrop. Getting that extra Drake is going to help. A large portion of that lead coming back, though, for the side of the Maryville Secret Weapon Squad is up here for Pie Cake Lord. And I have to say, Hawk, you know, as a fan of that Resolve squad back in 2021, I'm just really happy to see Pie back on the Rift.
Absolutely, and he's making a good showing so far here on the Graves, and it is good to see a player of his caliber back. But as the game pace is sort of slow, just neutrals being traded back and forth, farm being farmed, Grapes, I wanna cast your memory back to about an hour ago when we saw No Team play a beautiful game here on the A streamers. Hold that thought.
Speaking of, I might have just cast a Chris PCL here. He's gonna have to flash away, but the rest of Winthrop are collapsing upon him. Kenji and Ivano are here. There's a shock blast. Kenji! The captain will secure the kill there with that final proc of the tether. Another one onto the board for Winthrop University.
Okay, I don't know how necessary that was from Kenji, but I like it. That was a fun play. But anyway, as I was saying, it's a really nice play by Winthrop to trade back on the top side, help out my bud. We saw No Team play a beautiful game here on the A stream just about an hour ago. They have already lost to 100 Next in the second round. Excuse me, No Name. So I was wrong about the team that we just saw play. Yeah, but No Name.
It's okay.
Our upstart team that got an upset have already lost to 100 Next. So 100 Next showing why they are the team to be feared in this tournament.
Oh man, more action down here in the bottom lane. Kenji in a whole lot of trouble. There comes the Moonlight Vigil, and there goes the kill onto Kenji. Get back with the Destiny in to just secure the 2v2. Make it a bit of a 2v3 now, 1v3. Priority around the bot lane here for Maryville. They're going to get some plates down onto Evan.
Yeah, getting plates on Evan RL. We were talking about the late game insurance carry. Yeah, it's going to be hard to play these team fights, but it gets easier with gold and Vex.
The big juicy shutdown in onto Vex. Going to land the double knock up here. Beautifully executed from the Maryville Secret Weapon Squad. Zyko gets out without less than 100 HP. They're going to proc the Herald bot lane, but they have to be careful. Where's Ivano? Get back. Very smartly stepping in front of his support to prevent any sort of shock blast snipe from coming through. There's the first brick, and now Evan actually chunked pretty low as the rest of Winthrop are trying to collapse here in the 4v3. The health bars are an advantage of the Eagles, and let's see if they can win the fight. Frost Force opening up here with the needlework and immediately taking down Get Back. Nice re-engage coming out from Zyko. It's Kind Jungle picks up the kill onto his opposing jungler, and Evan is left untouched, and he's going to turn the fight all the way back on his head. A double kill for the Aphelios. And which bot laner's more fed here now, Hawk? Evan is 4-1.
And somehow it is only the Twisted Fate that gets picked off in the end. I could have sworn that Frost Forest and Ivano would have had the damage to clean this one up, but Kind Jungle just does so much on the Rek'Sai, and the Aphelios damage, as you mentioned, Evan RL is looking fed. So here's the initial pick. Zyko still only level 5, coming in behind and just finds Kenji. Remember, we talked about whether or not the flash was necessary, Grapes? Turns out it was not, because Kenji gets punished for it big time, and Vex thinks he has support on the way and doesn't want to miss the wave, but I think this is just a huge overextension. They're not quite in range to help him out. So Vex gets taken down then before the fight can be re-engaged, and Ivano and Frost Forest do come down here to try to stabilize this play, and Gwen and Jace at this point in the game with full HP and full resources are very, very strong. But look at the way Kind Jungle positions the only full health member on this team. First, they send in Get Back, sacrificing his life to find a son, zoning them out. Now they're able to regroup in front of their tower. Knock up onto the Gwen, followed up immediately by the Rakan. One shot onto Frost Forest. That's most of the damage down. Ivano then split focus, can't find it. And as you said, Evan RL looking huge, Grapes.
And a really great target selection coming out of the Maryville Secret Weapon Squad there. You know, the easy play maybe would be for Get Back to issue that gold card onto Frost Forest, who is right in their face, but instead with the Shroud on him, focused on Ivano, I believe, instead, and just allowed for the target selection to be a little bit better here, but now Get Back might be in trouble as he's getting dove 1v3 under his own tower. Kenji gonna secure another kill, make it his second with that tether. Seeing a bit of a pattern here, Hawk.
Yeah, Kenji is roaming around and finding kills for the team, or maybe for himself. Either way, Fed Karma, honestly, is not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Getting that Moonstone online really early always feels good. Obviously, you would have liked that one to go onto your Gwen, but you know, the tether pops. It is what it is. And Vex was able to take a plate or maybe two here, but Kind Jungle has something else to say.
Man, the action just does not stop here in this game. Hawk, Arcane Shift already used, and Zyko clips Vex with the charm. Frost Forest is not that late game carry just yet, and the Void Rush will secure a double for the Maryville jungler.
Yeah, and there's the support jungle synergy we were talking about. Frost Forest got one shot after the fact. Yeah, Vex, he caught most of the CC, he caught most of the cooldowns. Not surprising that he popped fast, but I mean, with the Conqueror fully stacked, Kind Jungle does a hell of a lot of damage, and that is only a Nashor's Gwen. No Riftmaker in sight this early, so Frost Forest getting taken down for the second time trying to respond to some of these plays, and Maryville, after being down about 1,000 early, they're up now 2,500.
Well, here comes Kenji again. Gonna go for the dive here on to Get Back. It gets gold carded in. Mabud taking a lot of damage. It is the 1-for-1. Well played there by Get Back to ensure a trade for himself. Psycho getting in around the area to just make sure that nothing fishy ends up happening in return. So just that 1-for-1, and now all of a sudden, here, Hawk, we see the gold lead start to swing back a little bit here towards Maryville.
Yeah, Maryville just really playing a nice game right now. They've executed extremely well in the mid game after a shaky early start. One could argue that the play was worth here for Winthrop on the top side, despite it being a 1-for-1. Because if you're the scaling composition, trading even in gold is good. However, that is still 2 members committed onto one side just for a 1-for-1 trade. That was a 2v1 dive, so credit to Get Back for outplaying that one and managing to trade one back.
Oh, more aggression here by Zyko. The roaming supports certainly making their impact here in the early game. True Shot Barrage will find its mark onto 2. Not going to do too much in terms of helping Winthrop set up for some kills. It's just going to be the Secret Weapon Squad backing out for now. Turret plates have just fallen, which means at the end of the day, with that advantage in tow, Maryville are up about 3k.
Yeah, Maryville feeling pretty comfortable about where they are in this game. Dragons are even right now, so Threat of Soul is a long way off for either team, but what it'll really come down to, remember, is 2 items. Frost Forest is halfway there. Vex likewise getting pretty close to the Muramana. And once those spikes start to come through, that will be when the game really gets interesting, because I think Maryville will struggle in team fights as Get Back is dove in a side lane again.
This is the, what, third time that we've seen
a
dive onto Get Back. And feels really bad here for the Oceanic mid laner. Just wants to play the game, man. Can't get out on the map if you're, getting dove under your own tower. And that sort of seems to be Winthrop's strategy. Target the champions that are responsible for impacting the map in other ways so they aren't able to do so.
Yeah, I mean, and this is just Winthrop leveraging their rotations. Their composition moves around the map very quickly. And they're, despite being down in gold, they have a lot of control over this map. They have a tower to their name. As Ivano.
Big damage coming out from the mid laner here. Jace certainly does a lot here against a level 8 Rakan. True Shot Barrage will not be so true as to finding a kill onto Zyko. So it looks like Maryville just continuing to push some vision here around the bottom side. Of course, that dragon not spawning for another 2 minutes, but getting extra priority always a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Winthrop is just starting to rest back the gold lead now again. It was 2,500 in favor of Maryville. Well, now we're back to even. So very much a pendulum in this game, but it always will favor Winthrop as the game goes later. Frost Forest going to be backing right now. If we can check in on the gold, want to see where the carries are at. I would imagine Kind Jungle and Evan RL would be at the top, but I think what it really comes down to is whether or not Winthrop is getting close to the side of spikes.
Well, in terms of gold, I think another person you have to shout out here is Ivano. on this Jace. Has had a relatively quiet early game compared to some of the other members that have been getting a lot of action throughout this early game, but Ivano is able to pick up kills left and right here and there. And yeah, there it is, second in terms of the wealth scale here in this game, only about 500 behind the 4-1 Ophelio. So just those kills actually making a difference. But now, up in this top side, Mabud gonna be attacked here in the 1v3. Frostforce here to try and help out his top laner. The Needlework doing a lot of damage, and here comes Kenji with the movement speed. Turnaround for Winthrop is potentially here, and they're gonna stun up Psycho. Beautiful grand entrance coming out, maybe making it a bit of a grand exit. Vex is gonna try to go forward, but there it is, double kill onto Ivano, as he is officially on the board for the Eagles. It is a 2-for-0 up in the top side.
Yeah, and I think that makes Ivano officially the richest person in the game as well, Grapes. You were just talking about how strong he is, farming up so nicely on this Jace, already having 2 kills and manages to clean up the double. It starts with the engage attempt onto Mabud, which is nice, but Rek'Sai can't really do damage to a counter-striking Jax. Ult in, trying to finish off the killer, rather stay on top of the kill, but the collapse comes through, 5 member strong. Kenji again flashing over walls, no fear whatsoever. And although Get Back trying to block skill shots for his team, it's the shock blast, sending 1,000 gold straight into the pocket of the mid laner for Winthrop.
Yeah, really great stuff coming out of Ivano, and PCL might be in a bit of trouble as well. That fight there, Hawk, was exactly what I was talking about before we got into game in terms of the nature of these compositions. We saw the attempted engage by Kind, by Zyko, but the peel out of Winthrop was just too good. The Counter-Strike took all of the damage and allowed Mabud to survive, and the rest of the team was able to collapse. They had the extra movement speed to chase down the rest of the members of Maryville, and because of that, they got 2 kills, they got a very fed Jace, and they have taken the lead here in the Drake department as well.
Yeah, and this just all goes back to draft, where when Maryville's composition needs to find isolated members, but who are you finding? You have a Jax that has ultimate and ways to jump away. You have a Gwen that can buy time with the W and the healing. Jace, okay, could be pretty vulnerable. Ezreal, Arcane Shift, and then you have a Karma with a Shurelya's and a shield that can help rotate the team around to to start the fight around the teammates that are getting engaged upon, around the teammates that are so good at buying time. And then if you're trying to front-to-back fight as well, you just can't do it because that's a Karma, that's a fed Jace, it's a fed Ezreal, that is a Gwen on the other side. And I think this composition is going to be too hard to play.
Kenji stepping a little bit too far forward there. Yeah, getting killed very early on in this fight, and I really like this play out of Maryville. They know that they get outscaled. They need to push the tempo. They need to send these members, funnel them straight into the Winthrop base, and they're getting the better end of this trade so far. But take a look at this. The collapse could be here. The Gwen could go for the collapse. Needlework is available. Inhibitor falls. Now take a look at the fight. Frostforce is getting locked up. Evan is inside the Shroud, and that means that the Gwen gets taken down. Vex has to Arcane Shift out, but Evan is just too strong with the Chakram, nearly taking out Vex as well. Kenji re-arriving to the fight. True Shot Barrage does a decent chunk of damage, and now Maryville will have to get out alive here. Evan has the red-white. Normally that means don't fight, but take a look at the health bars of Zyko. Take a look at the health bar of Get Back. Mabud coming in with the teleport as well. Looking to re-engage. Has that Counter-Strike. Will get knocked up. Will be unable to land a stun. And Maryville, with a successful heist, take the inhibitor and get out basically scot-free.
What is happening right now? Maryville just strong arms their way into the top lane and take an inhibitor. That's the map pressure that you might need. Yeah, you're going to be losing gold. Yeah, you're going to be losing XP, but I think this is the realization for this Maryville squad that you aren't winning team fights in this game. You have to try to win the game a different way, and taking early inhibs might just be that map pressure that they need to blow this game wide open. And what a bizarre 20 minutes it feels like we've had, Grapes, so back and forth between these teams.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, what, 500 gold separate them at this point? Normally you don't see that happening here at the 20-minute mark in any game of League of Legends, but just shows how strong these two teams are, how close they are in terms of skill. The collegiate scene just gets stronger and stronger every year, and this is speaking right to it. But for Maryville, all eyes have to be on Evan RL. Is that late game insurance and has to be able to do the damage like we saw in that earlier fight. Re-engage potential here as the Baron has potentially been started up here by Maryville. I think Evan is just maybe trying to get some usages out of that caliber and maybe get to a gun that can do a little bit more damage. But actually here, take a look. Maryville, they're still hovering around this objective here.
Yeah, I think they're trying to leverage the fact that Winthrop doesn't really have full control of their topside jungle nor the mid lane, but you just, like you said, don't have the damage to kill off the Baron right there. Something I want to talk about, though, you know, Frost Forest on this Gwen, I think part of the reason why he's struggling so much in these fights is Zyko on the Rakan with the Glacial Augment is able to go into the Hallowed Mist and CC the Gwen, throwing down the Glacial, meaning that the Gwen's not really able to kite around as easily or do as much damage to Zyko's teammates. So maybe a little bit of an underrated interaction there, helping shut down the Academy player.
We'll see, yeah. Frost Forest hasn't had the most impact on the Gwen so far. Of course, once she completes that Riftmaker, unlocking that 2-item power spike definitely comes a bit more online. But for now, it's still Maryville pressuring around this Baron. And I like this from them. They want to force the fight. They want to force a misposition. And they might have just found it. A beautiful flash coming out from Zyko. And Frost Forest goes down immediately. Evan now
Kenji's
dominating.
it again.
And Kenji is continuing to try and do something. Try to have some sort of respite for the Winthrop Eagles. But now with the jungler down on the Winthrop side, Maryville is starting up the Baron. Here comes the rest of Winthrop, though. Take a look at Mabud. Has not really arrived to the fight just yet. Big shock blast coming out from Ivano. Vex has done big wonders in these fights on the Ezreal before. Will he be able to pull off another miracle? Maryville are going to pull the Baron, and here comes Pi. He's teleported into the base. The Nexus towers have been exposed. Here comes Get Back as well. Only uses the Destiny for vision, so not able to come in to try and finish off the game. In a bit of trouble now, Pi might be, as the first Nexus tower has gone down. Maryville still pushing the tempo, pushing the pressure, but Ivano comes in with a huge shock blast and takes him to the skies. Evan trying to do his best in the 1v3, but it looks like the stopwatch from Ivano will prevent him from going down. That's 3 straight kills as 4 are dead on the Maryville side. What a turnaround from Winthrop. What a turnaround from Ivano.
What the hell just happened, Graves? It's Maryville, throwing down the gauntlet. They find the pick onto Frost Forest, try to start up the Baron, but it was all a bait. They look for the base, however, there just wasn't enough time. It's too early into the game. The respawn of the Gwen came through so fast. The poke from the Jace from the Ezreal, knocking them off the Baron.
No.
Now, Get Back getting zoned off the Dragon. This is soul point for Winthrop. I have to think that might be the nail in the coffin for Maryville right here. They're gonna try to get out to contest this one, but the scaling has come through. They did not quite respect the potential of Winthrop's composition, and they pay the price.
Has that been the last hurrah for the Secret Weapon Saints? Not sure just yet. Of course, Evan's still very strong. Might have been able to get some resets off, get some extra healings off if, you know, the stopwatch didn't come through at the correct time from Ivano in that last 1v3, so still have to keep an eye on the Aphelios, but still, as you said, Hawk, scaling continuing to go, and Maryville still have to just keep trying to fight, keep trying to find something. Frost Forest will get chunked out, but not enough as the rest of Winthrop will collapse in onto Kind. Ivano now has 7 kills on this Jace, 1k goal shutdown, 4 completed items, and he's going to be looking to pierce the hearts of Maryville here on Valentine's Day. Pushing into the base in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, Winthrop is on line. Kind Jungle doesn't even have the damage to finish off Frost Forest any longer. It was a long
No, Evan! He's dead! That's what you take from all the way downtown. Just a shock blast, a mystic shot, and down goes the main carry here for Maryville. Inhibitor soon to be broken open as well. Death Timer still on to Kind, so it's a 3v5 on the map at the moment. Baron buff still up for 75 seconds, but look at Ivano. He is just telling anybody he wants to go down to half HP.
Yeah, I mean, Ivano, 4-item Jace, highest CS in the game, 7-1-3. I feel like he's the only player we didn't talk about in the pregame. Graves, and he's absolutely smurfing it right now on this Jace. The poke coming through, and the way that Vex has been able to follow it up as well, it feels like any time a shock blast lands, it's immediately followed up by a mystic shot, and that amount of damage onto this composition is just too much.
What a game, Hawk. 29 kills in 26 minutes.
It's been a game, Graves.
Taking control over the entirety of Summoner's Rift, and you have to think if the game keeps going the way that it does, it will just be the Eagles continuing their undefeated run so far here in the PGCQ Open Qualifier. Still, some openings available for Maryville. They have to now look for picks. You have these really strong engagers here in Kind, in Get Back. If you can find somebody caught out for just a little bit before the rest of Winthrop can collapse, that's where you have to make your move.
Yeah, I mean, you have to try to find somebody, but look at the way Winthrop's moving around the map. They have Kenji screening for their people pushing in the side lane, Frost Forest around as well, Mabud separating himself just a bit, but they're not allowing anyone to be too far away from support. And remember, the winner of this game poises themselves incredibly well to move on to the main group stage. You need 3 wins, and the winner of this one will already have 2. So heading into day 2, you'd have to think what will presumably be Winthrop if the game goes the way we're expecting it to. They're going to be looking very, very solid to move
Inhibitors
on.
down. Pi is still in the bottom side. It's a 4v5 opening up here for Winthrop as they're onto the Nexus turrets. But Bud dashes away before that counter-strike can be completed here. Pi Cake Lord has responded, has returned. But what can he do here? The members of Winthrop might just be a bit too strong. Evan is trying to do his best to wave clear. He has 3 items. He can do the damage if he is unlocked, but not sure if it will happen just yet. Kind is looking for something, but he might have just stepped a bit too far forward before he gets anything. Avano one-shot Psycho on the backside, and it is all Winthrop here. Frost Forest gets the kill onto Kind Jungle before burning the stopwatch. It is 1 kill in return, though. Here we go. Evan is still alive. Here comes the dive, and there goes Winthrop. Avano gonna go forward with the 2 of the skies, pick up the double. Vex secures the ace, and down goes Maryville. The secret weapon squad was not enough. All hail the kings of Collegiate. All hail the Throps as they go 2-0 in the open qualifier.
Oh my word, Grapes. What a game we just witnessed. I'm pretty sure that was I think that was less than a half hour, and it felt like a 40-minute banger. So much fighting, so many crazy macro plays. I mean, there's so much that happened in that game. I feel like it's hard to really unpack all of it, but what it really boils down to is Winthrop, they drafted a composition that was good at one thing, and that was team fighting. And as soon as they got to that stage of the game, they executed.
And Maryville were definitely cognizant of the situation that they put themselves in with that draft. Yeah. They knew they had to find the picks, they had to find the engages, and they got so close around that Baron buff at around the 22-minute mark there, Hawk. And with that, maybe a bit of miscommunication there. To get back was not able to get into the base alongside Pi Cake Lord to try and end the game. The recalls ended up coming through. Winthrop wiped the fight on the backside. Avano just got completely unleashed there towards the end of the game on the Jace. And with that, the scaling prevailed, and Winthrop are now 1 win away from re-entering the Proving Grounds qualifiers main stage. That chance to get a little bit higher than that semifinals, because I think they want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was a convincing performance to aid in that argument, absolutely. I'm sure many of the teams in the top 16, if not all, are going to be vying for the chance to get higher than their semifinals appearance, maybe even challenge 100 next. And you talk about that base race play, because I actually think it looked like the call was to base race. They popped the Twisted Fate ultimate, but then they realized that Frost Forest was going to be respawning extremely soon. There was no way they were ever going to win the game, unfortunately, even if Twisted Fate goes in. But I think we talked a lot about the coordination before this game, and PCL pushing really hard to end the game. Get Back seems totally all in, and then all of a sudden they realize that it's the wrong call. And I just feel like that sequence was a particularly messy sequence in which Maryville had a good play, which was pick jungler, and then they immediately weren't quite sure what they could get out of it. And I think they knew that their composition was not going to be able to operate in team fights, which is why we saw that sort of desperation come through. But unfortunately, it was too much, and they weren't able to win.
Yeah, that's just what happens when you have that early game composition. You got Evan far ahead, and I really want to shout him out because he had a fantastic game on the Aphelios. Almost was able to get Maryville over the top, but at the end of the day, I think the team compositions towards that later stage of the game was not enough to get them ahead, to get them to that 2-0. Of course, still a lot to be seen out of the secret weapon squad. I don't think it's been fully unveiled here, to say the least, Hawk. I mean, you have a coach as dominant as Jensen Go coming into the organization, taking these 5 players and truly developing them over the course of this season. Would not be surprised to see them make a big run later on in the tournament, but for now, it is still our defending collegiate champions here getting that victory over their northern counterparts.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the defending collegiate champions showing why they hold that moniker. I mean, what an exciting couple games we've already had, and the 3 more that we'll get to see tomorrow. Round 2 already. I was scrolling through the match results a little bit, Grapes, and we've got a couple banger upsets. No ace is 2-0, Grapes.
What? Who did they?
No Ace is 2-0. They beat Trance's Tyrants in the second round, I believe, as well as we've got a few other, mostly top 8. I believe has all advanced, but within our 9 through 16 seeds, it seems like we've got a few upsets coming through in the first couple rounds.
I mean, that's the excitement here of this open qualifier. And Hawk, we have 3 more games to go at tomorrow to just see which of the 16 are going to be cementing themselves into the main stage. And I'm just really excited to see, how this, continues to go out, continues to unfold. But of course, not over just yet on some of the other streams. So make sure to keep checking them out. Of course, we'll be back here tomorrow for day 2 action of the open qualifiers. But aside from that, going to be it for us here on the main Unified live stream. Hawk, it was a pleasure covering these games with you. I'm excited to do it again tomorrow. Once again, like to thank some of our sponsors here at Unified as we wrap the day up. Have done so much to help us get through this tournament and allow us, to do too much stuff on in this regard. I think I'm receiving a word from my producer. Okay, never mind. Not going to thank the sponsors. Thank you to our sponsors again. Oh, we have a video here, I believe. Sorry. Got a little confused there, but it's okay. We got Skulls to thank, I believe, here for the PGCQ. Okay, never mind. I'm 0 for 3, I guess, but either way, we're going to just close the show out right here. Stop embarrassing myself anymore. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Valentine's Day, and we'll see you all tomorrow.